They were once the strongest faces on the screen. The men who defined what Hollywood looked like, sounded like, and felt like. But here's a question for you before we begin. What happens when time finally catches up with legends? Before we go any further, pause for a moment and comment the name of one actor you believe aged with true dignity. Write it now and stay with me till the end to see if your choice still stands. We begin with Clint Eastwood. In his prime, he was the silent gunslinger, the symbol of toughness and control. In 2026, Clint Eastwood turns 96 years old. And when you look at him now, you're not just seeing age, you're seeing a lifetime of cinema history written into one face. Jack Nicholson once brought chaos, charm, and madness to the screen like no one else. That unforgettable grin carried entire movies. In 2026, Jack Nicholson is 89 years old, and even now, one look reminds you why he could never be replaced. Al Pacino entered Hollywood with raw fire. Every word, every pause carried intensity. In 2026, at 86 years old, the fire may burn quieter, but the respect he commands has only grown stronger. Robert De Niro built a career on disappearing into his roles. From street criminals to powerful leaders, he became every character. In 2026, at 83 years old, his face reflects discipline, sacrifice, and decades of unmatched dedication. Morgan Freeman's voice became wisdom itself. Even when he was young, he sounded eternal. In 2026, Morgan Freeman is 89 years old, and his calm presence feels exactly the way his voice sounds, timeless. Harrison Ford defined adventure. He was the hero running from danger, never slowing down. In 2026, Harrison Ford turns 84, and his age reminds us that even the greatest heroes eventually pass the torch. Anthony Hopkins terrified audiences with stillness alone. In 2026, at 88 years old, his eyes still carry the same intensity, now mixed with depth only time can give. Michael Caine once embodied confidence and charm. In 2026, Michael Caine is 93 years old, and his transformation shows how elegance can mature without losing power. Dustin Hoffman proved talent mattered more than looks. In 2026, at 89, his career stands as proof that true acting never fades. Robert Redford was once the definition of effortless beauty. In 2026, at 90 years old, his aging reminds us how fleeting youth is, and how permanent legacy can be. Paul Newman would have been 101 in 2026. His eyes once spoke louder than words, and even decades later, people still remember them. Marlon Brando, who would have turned 102, changed acting forever. There was cinema before Brando and cinema after him. Sean Connery would have been 96. He wasn't just James Bond, he was confidence personified. Kirk Douglas would have reached an astonishing 110 years old. His strength on screen mirrored his resilience in life. Gregory Peck, also 110 in 2026, represented integrity at a time Hollywood desperately needed it. James Stewart would have been 118. His voice felt like home, and his presence like family. Charlton Heston would have turned 102, carrying authority in every role he played. Burt Lancaster would have reached 113, proving athleticism and grace could coexist. Rock Hudson would have been 101, once the face of classic Hollywood romance. Sidney Poitier would have turned 99, a trailblazer whose impact went far beyond film. Gene Hackman turns 96 in 2026, intense, believable, unforgettable. Donald Sutherland reaches 91, a face that quietly anchored generations of films. Christopher Plummer would have been 97, refined and endlessly versatile. Max von Sydow also 97, unforgettable in roles that explored the human soul. Peter O'Toole would have turned 94, bringing poetry into performance. Terence Stamp reaches 88, still remembered for his commanding presence. Richard Harris would have been 96, fierce both on and off screen. Omar Sharif would have turned 94, his charm crossing cultures and borders. Ben Kingsley reaches 83, a master of transformation. Michael Douglas turns 82, balancing intensity with vulnerability. Ian McKellen reaches 87, proof that imagination ages beautifully. Patrick Stewart turns 86, commanding respect with nothing but his voice. John Cleese reaches 87, reminding us that laughter, too, can grow old gracefully. Anthony Quinn would have been 111, powerful in both body and spirit. Donald Pleasance would have reached 107, unforgettable in suspense and horror. Leslie Nielsen would have turned 100, leaving behind laughter that never ages. Christopher Lee would have been 104, his presence towering even now. Gene Wilder would have reached 93, his kindness visible even through comedy. James Caan turns 86, tough on screen, complex beneath. Bruce Dern reaches 90, still respected for his fearless roles. Harry Belafonte would have turned 99, a legend beyond cinema. Jerry Lewis would have reached 100, forever remembered for joy and generosity. Bill Cobbs turns 92, a quiet giant of character acting. Robert Duvall reaches 95, one of the most authentic actors ever to live. Nick Nolte turns 85, raw and unforgettable. Jon Voight reaches 88, a career spanning generations. Mel Brooks turns 100 in 2026, a living reminder that creativity can outlive time itself. And as we end where we began, Clint Eastwood at 96 stands as a symbol, not of aging but of endurance. Now tell me, which age shocked you the most? And which of these legends will you carry with you forever? Leave your comment below. Like this video if it brought back memories. Subscribe if you believe legends never truly fade.